Ronnie Le Drew is here with us today. How are you doing?
I'm very well, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, you are probably best known for doing a well-known character that people will know. Who is that character?
That character is Zippy from Rainbow. That was a program that was a preschool program a long time ago on television, but he's still well loved, and I still use him on various sort of promotions and telly shows whenever he's asked to appear. I usually go with him because he needs me along to help.
Yeah. So how did it all start for you? What were you like as a child? Were you particularly creative?
I think possibly. I mean, I did do puppet shows when I was a kid. I lived in a South London block of flats with my parents and my sister. And during the summer holidays, I used to sort of take about three of my Pelham puppets. If you remember those, they were ones that string puppets you bought from shops. Yeah. And I had three of those, and I had a wind-up gramophone. And I used to have oh dear me, I had a kitchen table which I turned upside down. Don't ask me why. And I used that as a stage, and I worked my string puppets there. I also had a few glove puppets, which were, I can't even remember the characters very much. I think one was a dog or something. Anyway, yeah. And the local kids from the flats in the summer holidays when they weren't on holiday would come along, because I'd sort of say the day before, I said, I'm going to do a puppet show, do you want to come along? And they'd sit on the stairs. I was literally on the first floor. The stairs going up to the second floor made a very good raked auditorium. So they sat on the stairs and I did that. Music came from a wind-up gramophone, and I had 78 speed records. They're really dreadful, really, I think. And I had sort of Victor Sylvester orchestral music. Oh dear. No, I'm sure it was wonderful for its time. And then I had, some singers, some songs. I mean, really old sort of 19 sort of 30s, 40s sort of old records that I think somebody gave them to me. And they gave me this gramophone. Basically, I could wind the thing up and put the old needle on, and it would go around like that, make a terrible noise. But I mean, the music did come out of it. And of course, there wasn't any chance of using electric or anything like that. So that was the alternative. Yeah, that's how I started doing shit like that.
Yeah. And then you joined the Little Angel Theatre, becoming a sort of apprentice under John Wright, right?
Absolutely right. You've done your homework. It's brilliant. Yeah, indeed. I started at the Little Angel Theatre age 15. I was very, very lucky. And I've got my book here and I've got some pictures. I don't know whether those of you who are going to watch it onto, that's me as a young boy there, with John Wright standing above at the Little Angel Theatre, his wife Lindy below. Next to her is Christopher Leith, who became artistic director of the theatre after John died, and then Joyce Wren, who was a puppeteer and voice artist, absolutely brilliant lady. And that is Mary Kenny. She's now Mary Edwards, married, wonderful Punch and Judas. Now, if I go to this side, oh dear, there's Zippy's poking his head in. There we are. That was the original proscenium arch. It was like a letterbox opening. And you've got the marionettes. They were mostly marionette beginning when I first started there. And there you are. That's me up on the bridge. Sorry, they're a bit blurry, but... I think you get the idea. And there's a puppet down below, and I'm just lifting up my puppet, the Prince puppet. And here we are, John and Lindy and myself. Whoops, slight flare on that. There you are.
Yeah. Sort
of holding up the puppets again. And so there you are. There's your 15-year-old young lad, looking a bit dreamy there. But anyway, that's all in the book, by the way. I'm doing terrible self-promotion already. It's very bad. Yeah. But Zippy and me, oh my goodness, you got it the right way around. I don't know why I'm back to front, but there you go. Zippy and me is available in all good bookstores and also online. But probably best if you're interested in getting to know a bit about my history. It's there, and you can get it online on those sort of shops called Amazon and eBay. And they're not shops, are they? Whatever it is. But anyway, there you are. That was the start of my career, really. I had 8 months at the Little Angel Theatre, learning lit trade. I mean, I learned how to work string puppets. Took a while, mind you. because they're not the easiest type of puppet to work. And then, as well as working string puppets, I learned how to do glove puppetry and rod puppetry, shadow puppetry, because we had a building, and in the building you could do a puppet there was. Yeah. So I was very, very lucky to have that, that very early great start in my career.
Yeah. And you must have been very keen, because first of all, it wasn't paid, and you were mainly sweeping the floors and stuff before you got to be in the show.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Well, as an apprentice, you don't get, the top jobs, first of all. You have to start at the bottom. And the bottom was for me to sweep the auditorium after the shows of, the audience had gone out, and also make coffee and basically, generally sort of do that sort of menial task. I didn't mind at all. I just loved the atmosphere of the theatre. I'd been to visit the theatre with a friend who took me. She said, you must come along and see the shows, because John Wright is very famous. I hadn't really heard about the Little Angel Theatre. I mean, where I discovered it was, I was a member, when I was about 14, of the British Puppet and Model Theatre Guild, which happens to be the oldest puppet organization in the world. I didn't know that at the time. Yeah. And I went to this young 14-year-old. The meetings happened to be about a bus ride away from where I lived. I mean, absolutely wonderful. And I met lots of existing British puppeteers mainly, but they were, fascinating bunch of people. A lot of them did marionettes, some did glove puppetry. And these meetings would be sort of once a week, and you'd have, a different puppeteer talking about his or her life with puppets and how they start. So, I got lots of information and learnt a lot just from watching these people. And then, of course, going to the theatre and being there sort of Mondays to Saturday or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, 6 days a week. It was fantastic, because I joined a group of really puppet enthusiasts. John Wright was a brilliant wood carver, performer, and an all-round brilliant man, because he got this building, this old temperance hall he saw in 1959, I think it was, and thought, this is going to be a puppet theatre. I'm going to get this changed into a puppet theatre. And sure enough, he formed a charity for the theatre and got the local woodwork or wood merchants to build the roof, because the roof of the temperance hall originally was literally bomb damaged. And so it was all collapsed. So all there was really, when he saw the building, was 4 walls, and no roof. But he, had the knowledge, or he just thought, no, this is going to be a really great puppet theatre. And he also acquired the workshop next door, which was a joiner's at the time, Mr. West's, and he retired eventually, and the theatre took over the workshop. So he got a workshop plus a cottage next door to the workshop where he was able to live. So, wow, really, what else can I tell you? Oh, I know, I can tell you that, the apprenticeship went on for 8 months, but then because of the Puppet Guild and all the various organizations, I sort of met all these different puppeteers, and one of them was a man called Jan Bussell. Yeah. He was very famous because he ran the Hogarth puppets, and the puppets was particularly famous in a way because they started their company, the Hogarth. That's him and his wife, Anne Hogarth. I'm just looking up the book to show some pictures again. Basically, they were famous for a puppet called Muffin the Mule. Yeah. Now, Muffin the Mule was started on BBC television in 1946, little flickering black and white screens then. And it was actually one of the first puppet shows to be broadcast regularly. This would be, as I say, 1946. It went on till 1955. And I'm just going to show you quickly. That's Jan Bussell there and his wife, Anne Hogarth, and the Hogarth puppets. Now, I'm standing there holding a dragon, and a man to the side of Anne on the other side is a very famous puppeteer called John Blundell, sadly no longer with us, but he'll be famous for people who love all the Jerry Anderson shows. He designed and made the original Parker from the Thunderbirds. Lady Penelope's butler or manservant or whatever. Then sitting down on the ground is an Australian puppeteer, brilliant puppeteer, shadow puppeteer, who did a lot of shadow puppetry and still does. He now is back in Australia, Richard Bradshaw. And So John was just coming to visit us. You see, that is the sort of caravan that we did, the caravan shows. And that's one of my first jobs after leaving the Little Angel Theatre, was working with the Hogarth puppets. There's me with the famous Muffin the Mule there.
Oh, yeah.
Who was performed on television all those years ago. And believe it or not, I still work Muffin every now and again. Sadly, both Anne and Jan have died, but their grandchildren have Muffin. Will McNally, who sort of has kept the Muffin sort of characters and the show alive in a way. I mean, occasionally does performances himself with the puppets, but his sister Lucinda has a Muffin figure. There was two made, you see, because basically in the olden days when the lady, I'll tell you a little bit about it. The artist who set up the program was a lady called Annette Mills, and she was the sister of the late actor John Mills. Oh. And she was a dancer and a musical performer before the telly program, but she played the piano. And on top of the piano, the Muffin the Mule would dance and all his various friends would come on. And if, for instance, Muffin wanted to change into another character, not so much another character, but have put a different costume on. Normally he would just be the mule with his little saddlecloth on, but he'd go off and then another Muffin, and identical to the one, come on wearing a sailor's outfit or something. So you didn't have to stop, because in those days you didn't have the performances. Anyway, that was a wonderful thing. And of course, the television sadly stopped their program, literally, I think, 1955 when Annette Mills died, and the BBC thought they couldn't really do it without this presenter. Anyway, but Jan and Anne carried on with the puppet shows and, did shows all over the world. Plus, in the sort of summer times, they did the London parks, and that's when I got involved to be an assistant puppeteer with their shows. But as I say, I carry on doing guest appearances of Muffin even now. In fact, I'll be going back. I think it's on the 21st of August, if we're lucky. COVID stops. Hopefully it will be by then, to the Alexandra Palace, where originally Muffin appeared all those years ago in 1946. Wow. They started there, television started there. I love history of telling you. I love all that. And so it's really great to go back and show Muffin again to whoever comes to this event. But they also moved to Lime Grove Studios when Lime Grove Studios opened, which was, I think it was near, I'm trying to remember now where it was. No longer, the building isn't there, but Ali Pali is there. Great place to visit, by the way, if anybody in London, North London, it's wonderful. Yeah. I'll stop talking about that, my life. So I'm sure you've got another question to ask me.
Well, I was just going to ask, because, when you were younger, when you first started puppetry, your dad was like, try it for 6 months and then get a proper job if it fails. So what would you suggest to a young puppeteer? Because I feel like if somebody went to the careers advisor at school and said, I want to be a puppeteer, they'd kind of edge you towards a proper job.
Absolutely right. That's what, in fact, the history of that is that obviously my father was a teacher, to let you know. And the problem was that he thought, like most people, it should be you should be doing a proper job. It's a hobby. And the headmaster of my school said it's only a hobby. It's not, you don't do puppetry for a living. Well, I was just so lucky that I discovered the Little Angel Theatre before I left school. And of course, I did leave school in those days. I could leave school. You could leave school at 15. I mean, I'm afraid I didn't have any GCE or any qualifications. My qualifications is in puppetry and life, but I was just lucky. I mean, I went to the theatre, came back. I asked if they, I could be an apprentice. They said yes, but we can't afford to pay you. Shock horror. Anyway, I went back to my parents, and I remember my father, of course, would say, so how did it go? Yes, it went very well. But I'm afraid, Dad, there's not going to be any money, but they're going to teach me everything about puppetry. It's going to be wonderful. And that's when they went off and had a little chin wag and came back and said, well, all right, we'll give you 6 months. And it was like 3 months for me to get to know the theatre and see whether I really liked it, and 3 months for them to say, could they cope with this mad, enthusiastic, puppeteer. Of course, history was that, yes, it was fine. But to answer your question, I think probably nowadays it's actually quite hard to become an apprentice, in a sense, in puppet theatre. But the best thing is to try and do it yourself. I mean, I'm a bit unusual. Most puppeteers make their own puppets. I don't. I'm just a performer. I think I was put off because of the wonderful puppets they made at the Angel Theatre. I thought, I'll never be able to do that. But I did used to do sand all the joint. I mean, if they were wooden marionettes, I was quite good at sanding the different pieces. But I did a lot of stuff, like I did a lot of editing for the sound, finding music and stuff like that. Once I got sort of past the apprenticeship stage with John Wright, and we became great friends, actually. And we sort of, I think it was quite an honor to be asked by John, because he always did his own recordings and stuff. That was his private little thing. But I was terribly keen on all that side of stuff, because that was something I could probably do. And in fact, I did. I edited quite a few of the latter, because a lot of them were pre-recorded, the voices and stuff. But of course, we all speak live, there's very little pre-recording, but in those days I think it was felt that puppeteers probably didn't have very good voices, very posh voices or whatever, or actors' voices, so therefore they'd get actors in to read the lines. But nowadays, I think, for instance, I've had voicing eventually as time went on. And also, I love doing my own voices. I did my own puppet shows when, in fact, the same sort of time as I was training at the Little Angel. And so that was something I really enjoyed. So I was just thinking that kids could probably, when I say kids, I mean young people could probably join the puppet organisations. I mean, the British Puppet and Model Theatre Guild is still going. I'm president now, believe it or not. I know, it's terribly exciting, which is great fun. And we're having, in 5 years' time, it'll be 100 stations. So we're going to have lots of lovely things happening. But there's the Puppeteers UK organisation where you can look up, you go on everything's online now, of course, and you can find that. And there are a list of lots of different puppeteers. You might find that you could email their address and say, look, I'm really keen, is it possible to come and see your shows or be involved in something? And you never know, they puppeteer might, require somebody, or we be quite happy to have somebody to assist or just to watch and learn, that sort of thing. Lots of books, but then you can't really learn masses from books. You can, but I think it's better to try and see as many puppet shows as you can. It's difficult this day and age with the COVID thing, but let's hope it's all over by the summer and shows will start resuming again. Can't wait. It's been a long time without performances. I'm just going to show you a little puppet because I thought it's time to show you a puppet. This is Dodo Bird, and he was one of the first puppets that I used in my own shows. Hello, I'm the Dodo Bird. It's lovely to see you. Very good to talk to you, Toby. Yes, and your radio station. Hello, folks. It's lovely to see you. I am the oldest bird alive today. Everybody thought I died, but no, I'm still alive. Anyway, I'm going to go now because I'm hogging the screen. Bye-bye. Anyway, that's one of my glove puppets, and I've been so lucky, really. I worked at the theatre. I was able to do my glove puppet show, which I made with some wonderful friends of mine. Sadly, they're no longer with us now, but they're Violet Philpott and A.R. Philpott, who was basically Panto Puck, it was called, and they ran the Educational Puppetry Association. And I was, as I say, I'm not a puppet maker, but they encouraged me to, for instance, Violet made the dodo's head, which was out of polystyrene, but I painted it. She said, you must do something towards it. So I painted it, and I thought, he's showing his age a bit now, but I do touch him up every now and again, if there's a little sort of bit of painting needs doing. But I also made a puppet stage with Panto's help, and they let me perform with their puppets just to sort of get an idea of what it'd be like doing a one-man show. And they also let me go into schools. This is years ago. And so I was able to do sort of performances in schools. I didn't get paid, but I think they paid expenses like, for me to get to and from the school. But that was such a good learning curve. Audiences, children are brilliant audiences. And of course, they will tell the truth. They're not like us who'll sit there and will probably hate a show or something. But and somebody will say, did you like it? You'll say, well, yes, it wasn't my cup of tea. And you'll be terribly sort of reserved. Whereas the kids, they'll say, no, it was rubbish. And I remember bringing a puppet. I remember bringing a puppet on once. And they said, a kid said, get off, you're rubbish, before I even opened my mouth as the puppeteer. So I took the puppet off and I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And then suddenly the kids sitting there said, where are the puppets? We want to see the puppets. And on came the puppet. It was okay. But it was, those sort of things, they're just lovely. And then there's the lovely thing when you're performing to, I'm saying to children, but I perform to everybody really. But these were specific days when I was learning. You'd have a kid, and I in my show where the dodo has a magic safe. The safe gets robbed by the greatest robber in the whole wide world, and the dodo makes a trick in the safe for when the robber tries to come back to rob some more, and it's basically water squirted in his face. And he's, I want my mummy, and he goes off. And little kids from the audience, after the robber had gone out and the dodo was terribly pleased with himself, even if they're going to come back. Little kid said, excuse me, Dodo. And so I said, yes, what did you want? You've got water all over my sock. Or something, because the water pistol was squirted out and gone on. And, this sort of stuff. And it's so lovely. They're not puppets to young children. They're characters. They're real. They live while that performance is on. And that's the magic of puppetry, is the fact that, even with adults, you forget that they're puppets, they're characters, they're living, while the performance is on. And afterwards, puppeteer will put them down and that's it. And off we go. But, it's a magic thing. That's the thing for me, is the character and the response the audience gives you, relate to them too. Yeah.
Well, speaking of kind of children, your big break, I suppose you would call it, was when you were asked to be a part of Rainbow to do a guy called Zippy, who I'd never really heard of him.
No.
It certainly seems from the book that you were kind of lucky because of the connections you had in the puppetry world that you were able to get this role.
Absolutely. Yes. Again, I suppose I've been in the puppetry business for about 10 years by then. And so Violet Philpott, who I vaguely mentioned earlier, she was the original puppeteer of Zippy when the program started. And I knew her, very well. So I watched some of the early ones. But then she sadly hurt back. Basically, it was because, when your puppeteers are not used to doing television work, you suddenly, for a start, you don't turn it down because it's very well paid compared to the normal shows that you normally do. And not that you're doing it for masses of money, but it was exciting because she had plans to form her own company and put money into sort of establishing that. So that's what she wanted to do. So she was doing the stuff. But sadly, it's not comfortable being a puppeteer. Never is, really. Yeah. She was sort of sitting on quite low seats, some trolley or something like that, but very low. And then the puppet would be coming up. Anyway, what was she did damaged her back. I think one of the discs or something happened. So another puppeteer came in because obviously they had to carry on. Yeah. And his name was John Thurtle, sadly no longer with us either. And he was a brilliant maker as well as before. And he was doing, he did Zippy after Violet for a bit. But then him and his partners wrote that, first of all, they did a program called Board, which was on BBC television with puppets and stuff. And John made the puppets. Ian, his partner, made all, designs, I think, and wrote scripts and stuff like that because he's a very, very brilliant script writer. Yeah. And so then they were asked to do their own children's program for Thames Television, which was where Rainbow came from. Yeah. And so John just wasn't free to do performances with Zip and to make puppets for the next one, which is, again, another children's iconic program, Button Moon, which was, a story that went out for, I think they must have done over 60 or 70 programs of Button Moon. I probably got that totally wrong, but it was very popular. And so John rang me, as I'd known John. John started his career at the Little Angel Theatre, and so we were friends. And he said, "Look, Ronnie, I'm sure you'd be interested." And I said, "Yes, of course I am. How wonderful!" And I was able, funny enough, at the time, to take on the job of working Zippy, and also to carry on working at the Little Angel Theatre at weekends. I was mad, really. I mean, I never stopped. But I was so excited. The Rainbow time, we had rehearsals on a Monday afternoon or something. So we had Monday mornings free. Same with Tuesday. Day was just a half day. And then Wednesday and Thursday were the 2 days that we were in studio. They were long days. We recorded 3 programs a week. And Wednesday was basically, I think we were in studio 9 o'clock starting and finished roughly about 7:30, that sort of time. So it was quite long. And then Thursday was a little bit shorter because we did 2 on Wednesday and 1 on Thursday. And if there was any pickups to do on Thursday, we would do them then because there was a little bit more time to work. But it was sort of Monday to Fridays. And of course, the weekends were mostly where the theatre was performing at that time anyway. I was able to step in and do shows with them because I wasn't married at the time. I didn't have the kids. I was sort of, it was just great to carry on working with the theatre. I remember John Wright telling me, saying, "Oh, you sold your soul to the television." Well, I hadn't really, because I still came back to the theatre. But Rainbow, I signed a contract for 6 weeks and I thought, how marvellous. Ding, ding, I've got a television series. Wow. Yeah. And suddenly, little did I know, because we never had retainers, 20 years later, I was still doing Rainbow. I mean, it's wonderful. And I'm still Zippy appearances now. So, gosh, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Does Zippy still belong to a company? Like, do people have to contact that company in order to have you coming on as Zippy? Or do you kind of have the freedom yourself?
I wish I had that freedom. What happens is that it is owned by a company called Boat Rocker now. I think it's affiliated to Fremantle Media, who were the people that sort of took over from Thames and all that. But I do Zippy. Well, if it's a television appearance or anything like that, that comes usually from Boat Rocker or whoever they are, and people will come to them, or they'll come to me and I say, "Look, I'm sure it'd be fine, but please contact the brand owners, as it were." And that's how it works. And normally everything is fine. I mean, I was very lucky with my book to have you get Zippy on the front. I mean, and they were quite happy with that. So that was really nice. But I do sort of sometimes birthday wishes and stuff like that, from public. I'm very careful that it's just Zippy doing it and it's not, I'm very lucky. I have a ceiling with lots of clouds. When we had the kids, we painted the ceiling with clouds and sun and stuff like that. It looks a bit like a rainbow thing. So I sort of do it. So Zippy looks, but at home in the rainbow house, as it were. So that's nice.
Yeah. And from reading the book, there's quite interesting things that you would never know. Like, I never realised that the arm for Zippy is just completely separate from the main body and head.
Absolutely. I'm just looking to see whether I can find... Oh, it is. Excuse me, I'm going to stretch over. Here we are. Well, there's Zippy Puppet. It's quite big. Yeah. This is why it's difficult to actually work him on the screen here. But yes, you're absolutely right. I'm just putting his... So if there's Zippy. Well, I've actually got... it's on my other hand. This hand will be working the head.
Are you left-handed then?
Well, funny enough, I'll tell you why. There's a story that I'm not. I'm right-handed. I had to sort of learn left-handed because I wanted Zippy to do some painting or some drawing. And it's quite interesting. You've got the puppet, and as a television puppeteer, you're not looking at your puppet, what you're doing. You're looking at a monitor down at the floor. And if I'd use my left hand, I would be all over the place trying to draw something. I mean, it's bad enough because you've only got 3 fingers. So you're holding, I'm going to hold a magic wand here, but, you're holding a sort of pen and I'm looking down, and that's why I did mostly with my right hand. So I was free if I had to paint anything. Some of the shots I used to ask if we could do a sort of close up of just the paw doing it, and then I could stand up and I could see the actual thing I was drawing. But normally, I mean, you see it, but on a monitor, difficult to describe, but it is quite weird. doing stuff on a monitor. But that was, I don't know why it was always separate. People didn't know. I mean, it's funny, they never guessed, which was great. I was quite pleased because I kept the hand, I didn't sort of keep it too far apart. So it looked as though it was always joined to the figure. So I wouldn't like to give that away, but that's why I did him with my left hand mostly. Occasionally I did it with the right hand if he wasn't doing any writing or anything like that.
Yeah, and it surprised me as well that the monitor that you used was reverse scan, which is not typical in television puppetry. Most of the time it's just straight scan. So when you went on to work on other projects, did you have to kind of adjust yourself and kind of relearn it?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first did stuff, it's because they're always use straight scan. We never... they didn't have reverse. I mean, I don't know when reverse scan started, but it was always reverse when I joined. That was the first sort of thing. And there was a switch on the back of the monitor. They're all, monitors now, like flat, like what do you call it, iPlays or something, little flat things. Well, then they were really quite big, clunky things, and you had a little switch. You could either reverse it or keep it straight, normal scan. And I just got used to doing it with, reverse scan. But when I worked for Muppets, I'm trying to think some of the film work that I did, Labyrinth, for instance, and Muppet Treasure Island and all those stories. I mean, it was a film, but we had monitors to watch, even if we were background artists. And I just had to be careful to, look at and make sure, instead to describe what, the feeling. But if you're straight scan, it would be like I'm doing here. But reverse scan, it would be like I'm doing normal mirror image sort of thing. But when you're looking at straight scan, you're having to, if you turn this way, it's actually that way, if you see what I mean. It's everything is sort of slightly different. So I'm very careful if I haven't done them. A straight scan for a while, I'm quite stilled. And then I thought, oh, yes, that's right. And you sort of get back to it. And after a while, because it's all straight scan, your brain sort of gets used to it again, sort of thing. But it was a fun thing. And I thought maybe I could always switch a monitor back to reverse scan. It wouldn't matter then, and because it would only be me watching it. But that wasn't allowed. But it was a bit tricky to begin with, but you can learn it. You can get used to it. So that's what I did.
Was it quite exciting to be part of this big television show at the time?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know how big or how popular it was. I knew that it was popular because we kept being asked to come back all the time. So I thought, well, this is great. As I say, I signed a contract for 6 weeks and ended up doing it all those years. So there must have been something about the show that was really popular. When you're not a face on a show, you get. I mean, Jeffrey, bless him, who was the presenter for many years, he'd walk down the street and somebody say, hello, Jeffrey, or, and things like that. He couldn't really, go anywhere without being recognised. Same with the singers, And I think with a puppeteer, no one knows what I look like because I'm not there. I did actually appear. We did appear a couple of times. You have to be real Rainbow fans. But I mean, once there was like Zippy was sitting at I think it was supposedly a cafe or something, and they wanted extra people. So I'd be sitting working him like this, and the other puppeteer would be sort of, that was quite fun. And we did, we appeared as all funny characters, just walk-ons, extras, really. So, but no, I remember we all got squashed in a lift in one of the songs. And so this sort of set, and we rushed in. But anyway, nobody would know. And I actually quite like that because, I mean, I think it must be it's all right at the beginning, I would think. I'm sure Jeffrey thought, wow, I'm being recognised. That was fun. But then every day you go into Tesco, you'll go into a shop and somebody says, oh, no. And that must be sort of, oh, dear, I want to buy some food for my family. I don't need that hassle. But so it isn't, as I say, I'm quite lucky, really. But your question was, did I realise? I suppose I knew it was popular, but I didn't realise really until the series or the programme had finished on the box, and we started doing student union gigs, which was, sort of in the universities, they'd have their late night sort of entertainment, and they thought Rainbow characters would be wonderful to go along. So we played practically for about every university in the country. It was wonderful. When we first did them, there were queues around the building. You know, we'd arrive and puppets in a suitcase and walk through. And there were like queues of students waiting to go in because Zippy and George and Bungle and Jeffrey or whatever were going to put. And I thought, wow, we are quite starry. I mean, you know, in a sort of sense. And then we were on Top of the Pops when Top of the Pops was on. I think we had a sort of a more pop version of the theme tune, and we sang Zippy and George were on it. And you know, I can't remember who were the other things. It's a tiny studio. I was so surprised when I saw it. But that was great fun. And that was quite a big thing. I think we became 13 in the hit parade during that year. And I can't remember the year, I'm afraid. But those sort of things, I thought, wow, this show is extremely, you know, popular. And again, I suppose after the event, I meet people, once they say, well, what did you do? You know, you're obviously a puppeteer, you've worked with lots of different puppets. And I said, oh, yes, I've been very lucky. I did Rainbow. That's my favourite childhood show, you know, this sort of thing. So it's extraordinary. And I meet people today. I'm very lucky. I know it's been the COVID thing and I haven't had work for ages, but I'm actually working on a film now, which I can't tell you about because it's NDAs, you know, and the crew. So it gets round, you know, so what's his puppeteer been doing? And I said, you know, we see Rainbow. And I mean, so many people have been coming up to me. You were my childhood. I said, really? I didn't meet you anyway. But I mean, they love the fact. So it's still there. And I don't know when it was last sort of aired on television. I mean, it's a while ago now. It's over 10 years ago since it finished. Yeah. So, but you see YouTube and social media, all those things, people put clips on and, you know, it still carries on. Yeah. But anyway, it's interesting actually. You mentioned telly things. I've just brought I've got another famous television puppet here I want to show you because he's famous in this country. It's Sooty. And as it happens, it's Matthew Corbett's birthday today. So happy birthday, Matthew. And that's Sooty. He's now, of course, owned by Richard Cadell. Yeah. And where's your... Oh, sorry. Oh, you want your sorry, he wants his magic wand. There you are. Izzy Wizzy, let's get busy. Don't hit me on the head with it, Sooty. Have you got your friend Sweep there? You have. Oh, good. Oh, he's waving goodbye. We'd love to see you all. Anyway, off you go. No, I was very lucky because Matthew was one of the singers on Rainbow when I joined. Oh, no, not when I joined. He came later. But anyway, we became friends. And then when, sadly, Harry Corbett, the originator of Sooty and Sweep, had a rather serious heart attack, he took over presenting Sooty for, I think, actually as long as Harry did. I think Harry did 25 years. I think Matthew did 25 years. And now Richard Cadell has taken over. Anyway, this is Sweep. You're going to speak to him. Go on then. Off you go. That's it. Now, you've got to do it properly. You've got to squeak properly. That was just, no, look into the camera. That's it. Hello, Toby. You knew his name. Oh, good. Lovely. Well, that's lovely. Anyway, he's going off. No, come back on again, see? Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. Off you go. Anyway, how lucky was I? The Sooty shows were recorded in the summer. We always had a break when we did Rainbow in the summer. Yeah. And I was able to do the puppets. In fact, I mean, I did Sweep to begin with for a bit because that's what Matthew's character was for a while. Yeah. But I also worked some of the other characters because we did a lot of location filming. And I love that because we went down to Dorset and filmed all sorts of lovely stuff. I don't know why I'm bringing that book again because I know there's a couple of pictures in the book. But just for those of you who might be interested, and can I find them when I want them? I'm going to say talk amongst yourselves, but wait a minute. No, that's quite. There's grandchildren. There's friends. Oh, wait a minute. Here we are. There's Matthew, and there's a rather pained expression of me. Don't know where my fingers are. I can't really show. Down under the table. And the other one, I'm holding Sue there for a change. And that's Harry Corbett at the bottom of the table. And that was for one of those magic tricks. Sooty was going to magic Matthew away. So we had to be very still. And then they stopped the camera for a second. Matthew jumps out of the way. They started again. And we go, woo, and we're magic. And that's how we go. That's some filming. Sorry. Not very, very dexterous. I should be being a puppeteer. Anyway, here you go. That's Matthew in the yellow there. Lovely Daphne Shadwell with the sort of T-shirt and the script. And that puppeteer at the bottom there, you can see two puppets just about. I don't know, I'm holding Sooty and Sweep and we're pretending to rock climb. The camera's, the camera's at the top there. And this beautiful weather. Look at that terrible starry picture of me with sunglasses. I think I've forgotten I've got sunglasses. I just wanted a picture with Sooty, Sweep and Sue. Yeah. And I'd totally forgotten I've got sunglasses on. But anyway, there you are. And I will talk about these pictures in a minute because I'm sure people would like that. But yeah, again, how lucky can you be? It's just one of those things that all of a sudden, I'm asked to do that. I do it. And you go on to the next thing. And the same thing happened really with the Muppets, because I'll start talking about the Muppets now, because what happened was I'd been to the studios in Elstree to see, I don't know what series it was, but the Muppet Show. But what was so gorgeous was I'd seen the Muppet Show actually being not filmed. Well, it is filmed, tele-recorded, and there was Jim and there was Frank and there was all these Richard Hunt and wonderful people, Louise Gold, gorgeous people. And anyway, there they were doing all this stuff. I remember Richard Hunt calling out, "Hi, Ronnie Le Drew." And I thought, Richard Hunt, and he was so funny. He was an absolute fabulous person, really kind. And so we went down. I had a friend two of us went down because we were right at the back, out of the way. We were also not going to get in the way of Mr. Henson and all that. And we were so sort of, and of course, the puppeteer was standing doing the puppets, wow, we're stuck under tables, a little trolley, it's so uncomfortable. Here they were, able to move the puppets properly. But that's the genius of Jim Henson. He said, the camera is going to be what we call the playboard, like I'm using now with the puppets, that is the cutoff edge. And, it's obvious, isn't it, really? Mm. And he filled the screen with wonderful pictures. And that's, anyway, the rest is history with wonderful Jim. Yeah. But then after seeing that, which was lovely, I did meet him and Cheryl, his daughter. They came to a party that Penny Francis she's the sort of, what would you call her? She's a wonderful puppet enthusiast, and was on the Council of UNIMAR, the World Puppetry Organization. Anyway, she had a party in her house, and then it was in Wimbledon, and Jim and Cheryl, who was around with, came to, I remember opening the front door and Jim Henson's there, with Cheryl. "Oh, come in. Oh, hi. Hello." And he was really quiet, gentle, lovely person. And, I just was gobsmacked. It was really fabulous. But then one summer, and I think you probably know the dates more, but Labyrinth, they're advertising puppeteers, extra puppeteers. Originally, they only wanted 20 extra puppeteers. In fact, they used 40 in the end, I think. Wow. But we had to go and audition at Hampstead. Jim had a fabulous house in Hampstead. We also had parties there, which was very nice. But anyway, at that time, we were in a church hall, and there was a whole lot of puppeteers there. There was myself and loads of other people and lots of youngsters who I didn't know at the time, but were absolutely so keen on the Muppets. They knew every single Muppet character, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, I know most of them. I know the famous ones, but I bet they won't want me to be involved in all that. And they were sitting one side and I was sitting on the other. And I remember, but I think they were thinking, oh dear, there's Ronnie Le Drew. He's done Zippy for years. We'll never get in. Well, actually, most of them did get in for the extra puppeteers, so it was all right. But I remember the audition. I had a beaver puppet, which I've got. My original one is getting a bit too old. So this is one that a wonderful puppeteer today called Phil Fletcher. He's lovely.
Oh, yes. Hacker the dog.
Hacker the dog, indeed, yeah. And he made this for me.
"Hi there, I'm Beaver. I'm very happy to be here. Hello, Toby. I'm looking that way because that's where you are. Anyway."
So, and I had a beaver like this, and I was doing my dreadful American accent. Anyway, and what you were told to basically either do some improv or just do a little sketch. Well, I thought I have to do improvisation. I haven't got time to do a little sketch. So he just,
"Oh, hi, everybody. Hi, Jim. Hi, Zippy. How are you?" Ooh. Anyway, now I'm going to get myself ready.
And he just sort of cleaned himself a bit. And,
I'm doing my back.
Yeah, that's lovely. Get out of the way. That's it.
"Oh, thank you. Bye-bye. Ooh."
Anyway, that was him. And I did this, I don't know, rubbish, I call it. But, they said, don't call us, we'll call you, the usual cliche. But I did get the call saying, yes, we'd like to have you on, for Labyrinth. And sure enough, I was there for, I don't know, a couple of months or something, because we weren't on what we call dailies then. So I am looking for these pictures that I got ready. Anyway, we weren't on dailies like you are mostly on films nowadays. But so this is the Labyrinth days. I had a beard then in those days. That's one of the goblins I worked.
Wow.
For, the background. And then there's me being very cheeky, sitting on Jared's throne there, David Bowie's throne and that was the big number we all worked on, which is the one where David Bowie was throwing the baby, the young baby being, of course, Toby Froud, who is the son of Brian and Wendy Froud. And of course, just recently I worked on Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance, where Toby's now the same age as my son, actually. I think 36. I'm hoping I mustn't say all that because I'll probably get the years wrong. But, working with his mum and dad, and they are delightful people, really. I mean, I always think these people that are really talented usually turn out to be, because they just love what they do and they're really clever and they don't have to show off about it, or the work is there. And I think that makes them really nice people. And Brian and Wendy are just delightful, really delightful, as Toby is really super. So yes, I got the job on Labyrinth, which was fantastic. There's a little bit of stories about it in the book, if people buy the book. And then I worked on, now I always get it wrong which film came next, but I think it was Little Shop of Horrors. That was Frank Oz directing that, and that was a delight to do. I was incredibly lucky. We sort of followed on almost. And I did sort of the plant. I suppose you call them the vines at the bottom of the plant. There were the leaves, and then there was the big plant itself. And these vines sort of moved, and they were on big sort of cable things. We were pulling these leaves like this underneath the set. It's extraordinary. We're all under. There is I think there's some pictures on YouTube. If you're really keen, you can find some of the making of. And you can see some of the puppeteers moving these things like this. But I had a thing where I did the dialing of, it was towards the end, and the plant was dialing the phone number of Audrey. He's Audrey too, and Audrey was the girlfriend of Rick Moranis. And he phones up and says, this read comes up, and it's my dialing. 5 seconds, but I think, oh my goodness. And then it goes down, and then she comes in, and then we think she's going to be eaten, but no, Rick comes to save her, which is great. But I did do the legs of Mushnik, the shop owner. There's a lovely scene where, he's looking slightly surprised and he's walking back towards the plant, and Rick's going, but the plant, and suddenly he cuts to Rick going, oh, like that. And then you cut and you see that the plant has got hold of Mr. The shopkeeper, and I actually work the legs, and they kick again on long rods right out of shot, and then somebody else pulls them. So you just see a little bit of kicking of legs, and then and the mouth eats them and it goes. But how lucky, to do these little bits when you're only really an additional puppeteer. But I'm very happy just to be additional puppeteer, to be working on all this super stuff. Same again with Muppet Treasure Island. I was in that. Oh, Muppet Christmas Carol. What a delightful film. One of my favourite films. We watch it as a family, or we have done over the years when the kids were quite small. But it's just fabulous. It's so funny. And Michael Caine, joy, absolute joy. The scene I remember most working on is when we were, it was the very end of the film, and he'd got to Cratchit's house, and he'd brought this big turkey, and there was a big party, and all these Muppet characters all sitting at the table. And it's only it's probably about 5 seconds, this scene. But I remember the camera starts with obviously with Michael there as Scrooge, and it just pulls back, and you see all the characters sort of, enjoying themselves. Well, they took all sorts of different angles, and they chose the best one. Well, during that time, we're in a sort of pit underneath, and Michael's sort of sitting on the sort of thing at the table, and he'd look down at us, say, God, you're amazing, you lot. And he'd tell us lovely stories. What a fabulous man. He took time to talk to our puppeteers underneath, sort of thing. So no, he was a joy. Same with in Treasure Island, Tim Curry and all these wonderful people, character actors, that were in that film. That was fantastic. I did a little marionette piece because they knew me as sort of marionette string puppeteer, and it's a few seconds, but the pirates jump off the boat, and we filmed that, and I chose a few puppeteers. We strung, I think, 9 on strings or something, I can't remember, onto these things, and we jumped them off, and they fell in, and somebody splashed water up. I mean, it's mad. But there was lots of other lovely bits in that. But I'm trying to think of other things. But you'll probably have another question to ask me, which I've probably not talked about.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I like the story about how when you were working on Treasure Island and you were kind of just bored in the green room playing games, and then Kenneth Branagh came in and told you all to shut up.
Oh, that was hilarious. Thank you for reminding me. That was so funny. This was a huge green room. There was a load of puppeteers. We were playing this stupid game, and we were giggling a lot. With films, a lot of the time is you're paid to wait before you do your little bit. Anyway, and there was hours went on, and we were doing this stupid game, but we didn't know, unbeknown to us, literally behind the green room was this other, I never went in there, but Kenneth Branagh came through, and we went, oh, and he went, excuse me, you are making a lot of noise. We are trying to work. Yeah, or something like that, very good actor and all the rest of it. And it went out, and we went, oh. And we were told we couldn't go into that green room after we were, told off. But I mean, yes, I've forgotten I'd put that in the book, didn't I? Yeah, gosh. Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Branagh, I do apologise for making it. Well, we were all laughing, innocently, really, basically. But yes, no, that was fun. Oh, there's lots of waiting time. One of the things I loved when I was working on Little Shop of Horrors in Pinewood, the Pinewood Studios, the home of the Carry On films, the Bond films. Oh, yeah. I was thinking, wow. And there was times that we could go out, we'd ask an AD and say, look, we're just going to wander around if we can see, because there was like iconic spaces there. Yeah. So we do, and then we were luckily enough, we weren't ever called back. Oh my goodness, where are you? And I looked into, and onto different sets and thinking the Bond stage, this massive Bond stage, which is, they built in. I think there was a fire a few years ago, and they had to rebuild this huge stage. Ooh. But anyway, that's part of the fun. And then same with Shepperton. And I've worked at Elstree Studios is a little bit different. They do a lot of telly things there now, but they still do the films, the old films there. But now I was thinking of what was another lovely studios. Oh, Ealing Studios, much smaller, but the home of all those wonderful Ealing comedies in the 50s and 40s. And, Alec Guinness and all these amazing people, working. And I've done commercials and some puppet stuff. And those studios slightly changed now, a lot of them, they've knocked. Oh, there was a wonderful canteen at Ealing, and they had pictures of the old movies they made there on the wall, and I think, oh, there's Kind Hearts and Coronets and all these amazing old comedies. They were all sort of black and white pictures of the period, and the actors looking all very sort of elegant and all the rest of it. But they've knocked that building down and changed stuff. I'm sure there's an archive of all those. I'm sure they didn't get rid of all those photographs, but they're not in. Well, they certainly weren't on view a few years ago when I last went there.
Yeah. And you were also the hand in the lottery advert for the It Could Be You thing.
You have done your homework much better than me. Yeah. Well, this hand, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you what, that was hilarious. I got a phone call from an advertising company saying, look, wait a minute, I don't know what it was. I think I read somewhere that they wanted to see anybody who could do, originally it was a rabbit. Now that's, I don't know, those of you can watch it on YouTube. That was my one-hand rabbit, right? And I thought, well, I'll go along. And I went along. I don't know whether probably other people went along to audition or something. And the people said, oh, yes, that looks very good. I did all this sort of silly thing because they wanted a rabbit to look over the moon to begin with or something. This was the original lottery advert. And then they said, oh, because it was all going to be computerized anyway, they just needed something to do. And they said, oh, well, could you do a couple of points and things like that? So I said, oh, yeah. And so I did a few these sort of things or whatever. I think it was just that. I can't remember. Anyway, what happened was I got paid, I think it was £50 for 20 minutes in that studio. Now, I thought that was quite a good deal. I thought, it's fine. Go to Sainsbury's and buy a few bits of food. Anyway, so I came away. But the funny story was that the Sun newspaper, now how it found out, goodness knows. I was then I was on holiday, I think, unless we were living in Yorkshire. Anyway, the family, we were all up in Yorkshire, and there was this phone call. and it was saying, "Hello, this is the Sun newspaper. We'd like to do a little article. You're the person who did the It Could Be You advert, you know." And I can't remember the name of the company that owns the lottery, but they only paid you £50 for that. And I went, yeah, I was quite happy. And they were so disappointed. They wanted me to say, "Oh, yes, dreadful," you know, and so they could make, you know, a proper news story of it. Anyway, they said, "Oh, we want to have a photograph." I said, "Well, actually, I'm in Yorkshire. I'm in a little village, Gassington. I mean, you'll never." "Oh, no, they've got newspaper photographers all over them." I suppose they drove from Leeds or somewhere. But, you know, sure enough, the next morning, this photographer turned up, you know, and I'm standing going, you know, with this silly finger. And they did, I mean, it was only a very small article in the Sun, but I nearly died. I thought, my God, you know, how do these people find out? But yeah, that was fun. I've done other things that you might be interested in. I did Brains from Thunderbirds advert for Drench water, which was great fun. And so I think wonderful puppet John Roberts, I think he remade, if I'm right, the Brains puppet. And we did, and it was a sort of dance thing. We had it was about 5 or 6 of us working on that one to get all the different dance movements. But that was quite a fun thing. Yeah. I did the Diet Coke ad with these wonderful girls office puppets dancing on a table, and we had a proper choreography with the legs kicking up in the air and everything. And I will tell you a funny story with that. The costume, they were whacking great big heads. They had radio controlled eyebrows, and I think they had a mouth. We didn't do that. Somebody else was doing that, but they were terribly heavy, the heads. They were big because they had all these servos inside, and these little, like, I'm going to say, whatchamacallit, bodies. They were like, what's that doll? Not Cindy, the other one. Barbie dolls. Thank you. They were like Barbie dolls, but they had all these amazing costumes, you know, sort of dresses and stuff on. And I said, and one of them had a tight mini skirt on, and it wouldn't work properly. You know, it wouldn't do its height. I said, it's all right. We'd just slit up the side, at the back. Nobody's going to see. The designer went mad. "They are designer costumes. They were £1,000 each," or something like that. Oh my goodness. So we couldn't do that, but we just had to pull the skirt up a little bit. But that was I love that. I was involved in the beginning. It's always nice. I mean, it's lovely being an additional puppeteer, but you normally come in when the script's done, the whole thing has been sort of finalized, and you just do your little bit and you go home. But with some of those jobs, like, for instance, the Brains advert, I was there right from the early days when they were making up the storyboards, what they were going to do with the puppet. They were going to get a choreographer in. They were going to get a dancer who was going to had all those wonderful computer bubble things on so they could get a proper image of the puppet. You probably know much more about it than I do. My son will kill me because he's into computer. He knows all about this. He does computer work. Anyway, and then we copied as much as we could. And then the bits we couldn't, of choreography couldn't do, that was done with a computer generated figure of the puppet, which you hardly noticed. It was very clever. Anyway, so all that was good. And so I was right there at the beginning. It's the same thing with the, what was the other one? The Diet Coke ad. We saw all the early bits. So that was great to do. Although sadly, there was a puppeteer was making, I think it was an American company was making these heads, and there was a dispute with the designer or something like that. So they had a totally new, puppets had been made, I think, in about 2 weeks or something before the shoot, everything was fixed. And so we didn't really quite the same as the original ones that we had seen or okay. But anyway, that saying, it's again, wonderful to do. So ask me another question.
Okay. Well, back to the Muppet Christmas Carol. Do you remember any of the particular puppets that you got the chance to have your hand in?
Oh, that's a terrible question. I don't. I tell you what, I was when I say some, I was one or two of the characters. You know, when Kermit and Scrooge were walking down the street and there was a snow scene and lots of the characters were singing, looking out the windows. Oh, yeah. I was one of those, but what window and what puppets I was looking at, I'm so sorry. I can't remember. I definitely did the thing of something, dun, dun, Mr. Scrooge, when Scrooge was knocking at the door and some of the puppets came in, and it's a sort of, and there was a whole number, and we were all something, Mr. Scrooge. Terrible. It's quite a long time ago, but we were miming to the song. So I can't really remember which ones. Labyrinth, because I've got those photos. See, we weren't allowed to take pictures. By the time, once Labyrinth was done. After that, they went, no pictures, and, nobody can, take pictures. So I didn't. I mean, some people did, I'm sure, but I didn't. And so the picture would give me a memory, like the ones that, I mean, I know in Labyrinth, I did the one puppet that had a great helmet thing on, and he was next to a bell at the back, and there's one close-up of him holding a chicken, I think. It's a brief moment, and everyone laughed because that puppet was extremely heavy, and I thought, but anyway, such is life. And I did, there was the cannonball thing that flew across the thing, and his little legs were going. It hit her. I don't know, it was a character, I mean, hilarious. And I think I did the legs, those sort of, you do little bits, but it might take all morning just to get that technically right. But that's what, so you were asked. And really, I think people like Kevin Clash and Brian were the head puppeteers who were sort of giving the jobs to people. So one had to be, one waited and use you. Oh, right, thank you. And you go off and do something.
Yeah. Well, you've written all your experiences in this new book. What made you want to put it all down in the book?
Do you know, it wasn't my idea at all. Oh. I was at the Little Angel Theatre. I was doing a season at the theatre, and I still do a lot of teaching and all the rest of it, as well as performing. And a couple came in, Duncan and Nuala, who are the sort of fellow writers. They did all the writing. You see, I'm very good at rabbiting on, as you can tell, and don't get you a chance to ask a question or anything. But anyway, I rabbit on, and they were writing what I said down, and then they would put it all sort of concisely into the book. And it was their idea. This, they'd be great. We could, and we have Zippy there. That would be a good selling point. And I said, well, who wants to read a book about, puppeteer? I mean, I said, I don't just want to do it about Zippy. I'd like to do it about some of the other work I've done, and maybe a bit about my family background and blah, blah, blah. And they said, oh, yeah, we'll get all that in. I mean, sadly, we couldn't initially. It took about 5 years before this book was published, because basically they went around with the scenario of what the book might be to various publishers. And they said, oh, it's very nice, but he's not a big enough star celebrity to, we can't publish that. Anyway, then we went to Unbound, which is basically a crowdfunding publisher, quite clever, actually. And what happened was they said, oh, yeah, that sounds really good. I'm sure we can do something with that. But what you have to do is you have to get yourself onto social media. So I got onto Facebook and Twitter, and I was sort of saying, please, what was the word? Please not donate. Please put some money in, or request some money to get your copy of the book. And I did a little video saying, funny enough, filmed at Little Angel. I was very lucky, saying, I've done all the puppeteer. You won't know me, but you'll know Zippy and Sooty and Sweep and Muffin and all this sort of stuff. And that helped. And after about 18 months, I got enough money to have the book published. And that's how it happened. I mean, the long bit too, once you've got the money, you do your cover shot and everything. I love that. I love the cover shot because it's great that Zippy puts his hand across my face, because it's all about Zippy. It's so Zippy, the character. So anyway, and then a lot of it, I have lots of stuff that's not in the book, which is a bit sad. Like I did a lot of tours all over Europe, and went to America and Israel. And they said, oh, we've got to get to the Zippy bit, the editors, we've got to get back, it's all about Zippy and me. And I thought, oh, yeah, I know. And so there was some nice stories there, but, there you go. You can't have it all. No. So that was it. But I'm very happy. I mean, people have said lovely things about the book. You can do a criticism if you like. No, but no, but it's really, really nice. And people are still, it's still there. It's only been out a year. So I suppose, and sadly, with the COVID, it's all, it's a little bit, bookshops haven't been sort of, haven't been open to be able to sell. But I mean, hopefully they'll be open soon. But I did do a lot of, what was interesting, the publishers also said, oh, you can, we'll help you with the promotion of the book. And what happened was I spent 2 days at the BBC talking to practically all the local radio stations. Wow. Radio London was lovely, but we did it all over the country. And some of them I listened to, I love listening to the radio. And I thought, oh, I know that presenter. And I sort of said, there was an Irish guy from Irish radio. And I not listened to that, but I knew him. Yeah. And I said, oh, excuse me, and you sit in this little booth, and basically they connect you, literally you do 5 minutes chat about the book or whatever, and then you have a break for about a minute, and then the next one. It was literally, they were all piling up. And Steve Nolan, I think his name is. Anyway, I said, I listened to your programs. They're brilliant. And it was so nice to have a chat. And we didn't see each other, not like this. It was just through the microphone, but it was quite nice. And several of the people, I thought, I've listened to these people a lot and they're interviewing me. What a laugh. But yeah, so that, I think that's helped promote it a bit. But there's been some, as I say, very nice reviews. So fingers crossed it'll still be in print for a bit, a bit longer. I hope so. Anyway, I don't know how long these things, when decide to go if people don't buy it. But it's just, for me, I think it's still quite popular. People do like, hearing, the stories or reading and there is, as I say, I've got pictures of my children. It's for the grandchildren now. So that's nice. So they're in there. Not that they care really too much at the moment, but when they're older, they'll look, oh, that's me when I was a kid. I say, I dedicated this book to you. So that's nice. Yeah.
And have you been working on any projects more recently that you're allowed to talk about?
Oh, I wish I could talk about the one I'm working on now. Gosh. Well, The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance was the last big film. I've done loads, actually, since COVID. I've suddenly got into Comic Cons, and so I did about 3 of those before COVID. And then I had a whole lot booked, of course, all last year. All cancelled because of the peak, but they're coming up again. So I'm going to places like Hull Comic Con. I'm doing Reading Comic Con. I'm saying I'm doing them. One of them's in November, one of them's in September or something like that, I think. So hopefully by then they will. And they're quite fun. I've had some pictures done and I'll hopefully bring some books and Zippy will be sitting there. And so they'll have their picture, and that's very nice. I've done a lot of podcasts. There's been some, particularly in America, which is really nice. There's a puppet podcast, a girl in Canada, in Montreal. I did a podcast for her. Is it Under the Puppet or something?
Yeah, I think that one.
I think I did that one. There's about 3, and they were great. Really, I did that quite a while ago. I think I've done about 3. In America, that was really nice. So I'm sitting there chatting away, a bit like I'm doing here, not being paid. It doesn't matter. It's really nice just chatting about, the stuff you've done. And they're really interested. They really love it. And of course, the book's been on sale, through Amazon and eBay and all that. They can buy it, which is really nice. So several American puppeteers have bought it. What else have I done? Mostly that I've been on a panel for The Little Angel, because the theatre's, not been able to open to the public. They've done a lot of online things. And I read a story for them, for one of their, just a story. And I think it was the poem. I think it was the Edward Lear, The Owl and the Pussycat or something. I did that. But I also been on a panel. I do a lot of teaching and I work for Curious School of Puppetry, which is actually started by John Wright's daughter, Sarah Wright, a few years ago now. And we've been traveling around, we did about 3, I think, in London, but we've been to Scotland, we've been to Cornwall, and hopefully this year, of course, nothing, but next year, hopefully we'll be in Bristol doing, and that's the fantastic course, and I'm one of the tutors on that course. But again, with the Little Angel, there's a panel of puppeteers, 3 puppeteers, and we talk to what they call the foundation course, which I used to teach a long time ago, but I couldn't do that and do some of the other work. So I've just come in as a guest tutor for 2 sessions usually. And I've been doing that for quite a few years. But it's quite nice, suddenly sitting on a Zoom and the students ask questions and we, do our best to answer as succinctly as possible and answer them, put them in the right direction anyway. I'm trying to think of other things. As I say, I'd love to talk about this film, which is a really big film and a very big star. And I was terribly lucky. I worked on a film. I suppose I'm allowed to say that, but I don't want you to guess what it is, or else, because this is social media, and they'll kill me.
I honestly have no idea.
Good. Basically, I worked on a film called Beauty and the Beast a few years ago, which was with Emma Watson. I nearly couldn't remember her name for a second. And the same company asked me, or not the same company, it's a different company. The guy that was working on that film has asked me to be a puppeteer on this new film. Ooh. So it's all rather nice. So I hadn't worked for almost a year. Suddenly got this an email first. And then I got a phone call and they said, would you be interested? And I said, I just look in my diary first, blank. Nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, what was it? Yeah, I think I can fit it. No, I'm so naughty. Anyway, it's been fantastic. I've been, I think, from the end of January and I got till about the 23rd of April, and then we finished. We've been shooting the last couple of weeks. We've got another 2 or 3 weeks shooting left. I mean, I'm sort of, I don't know what you call it really. I'm the puppeteer, but I had to find some puppeteers to be in a couple of scenes. Yeah. And I've been teaching an actress how to work a puppet. She's new to the puppetry world. I also had to teach the top big star a little bit of work with it as well, which was fantastic. And we did a photo shoot last week, just him and me. Well, not me, but the puppet. And that was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, there you go. How lucky can you be? And I've got some wonderful friends who are in the business now. I mean, we've mentioned, Phil Fletcher, thank you so much. It's gonna kill Phil Fletcher, and we've got lovely Warwick and all these people who I've known for years and I've worked with them both, and that's wonderful. And I'm, as I say, president of the Puppet Guild, so I do meet lots of new puppeteers and people. And there's a wonderful Mayfair that we all go to. Sadly, I don't think it'll happen this year. It'll probably be online because it's too close to the COVID thing. That's a thing actually for new puppeteers. Anybody wants to come along, it's quite a good thing to come along. It's in London, of course, if you want to come up for the day, if it's a lovely day. And it's in Covent Garden, and it's the St. Paul's Church, Covent Garden, in the grounds. And there's about, I'm going to say 40 puppet booths. Sort of Punch and Judy booths and all. It's really sort of Punch and Judy Mayfair, really. But there are other puppeteers there, and usually Phil and Warwick turn up, and we do silly nonsense things with the puppets and play around, and it's just really nice. And so that's a nice place for meeting people. There you are. I think I've told you more than enough about the film that I've been working on, but I don't think I've said anything too drastic.
No. I still have no idea, other than there's somebody famous in it, which is probably the case with most films.
It is indeed. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry, isn't it boring? But NDAs, and it's particularly, I think it's worse if you suddenly do it they've got people that look through every social media thing, and if you say anything, you're mud. So I have to be really careful. It's a bit with Dark Crystal, we weren't allowed to talk about that for a whole year, and you thought, I'm dying to say that I worked on that, because it was so exciting. But anyway, but you've had some wonderful interviewees, haven't you? It's great. So I was really honoured to be asked to come onto your one. I thought, gosh, all these lovely Muppet people,
Well, it's an honour for you to come on the show.
Oh, you're too kind. No, you are. Here we are. All these platitudes. No, it's not. Really. No, it's lovely. It's been fun. Thank you very much for inviting me. I've enjoyed it. Hope I haven't spoken too much. I do witter for England, Wales and Scotland, and I can't stop once I get going.
Well, can you just remind us of the places that we're able to find this book?
Right. Okay. The book is published by Unbound, so you can look up Unbound online, and maybe you can buy it from the publisher. But Amazon have their book. Just type in Zippy and me, and it'll come down on the thing. eBay sells them, and what's the other one? Waterstones have an online presence, and you can buy it there as well. But hopefully soon you should be able to pick it up in bookstores. It's not too expensive either. It's a paperback, so it's sort of, you might even get it cheaper on these online things as well, although you do have to pay postage. So it does sort of add up to the same. I think it's $10.99, the book, but it's got a lot of pages in it, and there's quite a few photographs, some in colour. Ooh. Or most of them in colour, actually. And there it is. That's it there. As I say, I never thought I'd be writing a book about my life. And there you go. These things just sort of are placed in front of you. You think, that might be quite nice. So there we go.
And is there anywhere we're able to keep up to date with you on social media or websites?
Yes, indeed. Sorry. Yes, quite right. I have a Facebook page, which is just my name, so you can just look up Ronnie Le Drew, and, you can befriend me. And if I like you, I press yes or something. I'm on, sorry, sounds very rude. And then I'm on Twitter, but I'm known on Twitter as Punch and, because all the things of puppets, I tried, when you first join Twitter, you have to give a sort of silly name, but every name I put, no, gone. So I thought, this is ridiculous. So I just put myself as Punch and. So I think you can find, but then Ronnie Le Drew is, you'll know it is, because it's all sort of puppet repeated. stuff. I do have a web page. It's a little bit out of date now, and that's just www.ronnieledrew.com. I think that's my email. Wait a minute. Oh, gosh. No, that is it. That is my web page. www.ronnieledrew.com is my web page. It is a little bit old, but it'll have all the early stuff on it. And there's some pictures and info and list long. Oh, sorry, it's so old. It's got a long list of every television thing. I think I did about 2 seconds in, goes down to compare to look at that.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show today. It's very nice of you to take the time.
Oh, well, it's been a pleasure. And thank you very much. It's been really easy and fun. Thank you.